My wife's infidelity with her domineering boss was made public by a hidden tab. She was miserable in life after he abandoned her. My wife Jilly, 38F, and I, 39M, have been wed for 11 years. We had dated for more than 7 years before that. We had a really harmonious and forgiving relationship together. Before we started dating, we were best friends in college, so we have always been each other's pals. Our lives were going well until Jilly started working for John, 32M. Jilly returned home the first week after he started working there and talked constantly about him. She talked about how much of a lovely employer he is, how he nurtures and values each employee, how he makes everyone feel good about themselves, how much of a loving and visionary leader he is for the future of his staff, and so on. I was excited to hear it at first, but soon I became bothered by it as she was no longer inquiring about my day. I assumed that she wouldn't be swooning over him for long. That's how it worked. She stopped talking to me as well as about him a few weeks later. Yes, she grew aloof and chilly toward me. Something subtle, but not overtly apparent or visible. Now that I know the full story and can look back, I believe I ignored her altered behavior at first, because I felt uneasy about her. I was unaware that it was dishonest. It didn't register with me until it started to continue and she displayed other warning signs. Before long, she was frequently arriving home after work late. This was also not out of the ordinary because she works in finance and used to work late into the night during certain banking cycles. She began spending more time out with her coworkers. Again, since we both hung out with our coworkers, this was also very typical. She wasn't really changing what she was doing. All she was doing more of this stuff while ignoring me. She started to get angry with me. Our sexual life completely stopped. I had a feeling that something wasn't right, but you don't automatically start to doubt your partner. I talked to some close friends about this, and they told I shouldn't worry because every couple experiences ups and downs occasionally, and it might simply be a phase. They advised me to get back into my marriage and treat her to something special. My friend recommended that I repeat our past experiences because women enjoy this kind of thing. Neither our anniversary nor her birthday were approaching soon. The fact that next week is our graduation anniversary, and Jilly and I had our first intercourse on that day, was brought to my attention by my best buddy. Her grandparents weren't home that evening, so we snuck out of the graduation celebration and headed to their apartment. I wanted to replicate the hamburgers that she loved, since I had made them. My favorite things to do when I get home early from work are make her hamburgers and apple pie, buy her white wine and lilies, and adorn the living room with elegant dim lights. She was thrilled to see all the arrangements when she got home. She gave me a big hug, lots of kisses. She made a puppy face a few minutes in, so I can assure you that it was entirely staged. She told me that she truly came home to change when I asked her what had happened. She had to go because one of the senior managers was being feted by her colleagues. Naturally, I became agitated, but she reassured me that she would return in a few hours. I did not make a scene. I just said, okay. She departed at 8, vowing to return before midnight. Her 2 hours stretched into 4, and I remained silent. I watched till after midnight. She was nowhere to be found. I wanted to text or contact her, but I held back out of respect for myself. At 2, I finally turned out the lights, stored all the food in the container, and went to bed. It seemed like I was the only one making an effort to get my marriage back on track, which made me feel foolish. She crept gently into the room and slipped onto the bed. It was already daybreak. She moved very little to avoid waking me awake. I was pretending to sleep. I asked her when she got home last night when she woke up, and she nonchalantly replied that it was between 1:30 and 2 a.m. I glared at her and told her I was going to be up until 2:30. Although she claimed to be inebriated and fatigued, she couldn't recall the precise time, although it was undoubtedly before morning. It was blatantly false. She became defensive before I could say anything further. "Why are you questioning me in this manner?" she exclaimed. "I had previously gone out with buddies from work, and you also go out with yours. Why is it such a huge deal?" She was accurate. Although it wasn't a huge deal, complicated circumstances around all of this were undeniable. I'm not proud to say it, but I looked through her phone the following day. I went directly to the discussions she was having with her supervisor, Don. Although I didn't find anything dirty, I had the impression that the talks had been ended because they ended suddenly. I looked through her gallery and saw nothing. I perused every conversation. Those who attended the party last night conversed in a group chat. Except for John and my wife, I discovered that everyone's most recent text indicating they had arrived home safely was sent before 12. What the earth was she doing spending the whole night with John when everyone departed before midnight? Since confronting someone with this incomplete knowledge would be pointless, I began my search for additional proof. Installing a GPS tracker on her automobile was my task. The difficult part was keeping her car out of sight. I asked her if she thought the car needed to be serviced. She appeared to be more circumspect with it than she was with her phone. I became wary about it. I therefore crept into her car when she was asleep to install the GPS unit, and for some reason, I felt compelled to loot her car. And I carried it out. Deep under the back seat, I discovered a tab. Fortunately, there was no password required, thus I was able to access the file. What I saw next, oh my God, almost made me chuck up. Jilly had emailed her boss photos and videos of herself in the nude. In addition, she could see recordings of her supervisor giving her directions on various kink poses, specifying his preferences for the movies, and discussing how he would handle her during their next session. I snuck off the car after taking those all as proof. Her supervisor had been calling, but I didn't have the strength to go visit her at home. I went over to my pal and gave him a sneak peek at those images. He was a college buddy of ours, and he was also surprised to learn that Jilly was engaged in these kinds of things. I was too upset to handle things myself, so he got me a lawyer. We were able to skip the line and secure a spot for that same day since his distant cousin practiced divorce law. Based on allegations of infidelity, the attorney began the paperwork, but estimated that it would take 2 weeks to complete. I really wasn't prepared to return home. I said yes when my friend gave me a spot in his extra room. I texted her to let her know that I would be gone for 10 days on a work trip. All she said in response was, "Okay. All I have to do now is wait for the divorce papers to come so I can shoo them in her face and end this." It was during that 15-day wait period that things took an unexpected turn. It was pointless to follow her car because I already had all the proof that she had cheated. Still, I took that action. Upon learning that I was out of town, she hurried to the home of her kink boyfriend to give him a hard time. After following her for about a week, the device abruptly stopped collecting data. And I received a text from Jilly asking, "So this is your plan?" Along with a string of regrets and assurances that she would make amends with her job and change into a better wife. I disregarded everything. My intention to leave her was dashed, though. This infuriated me more. I emailed her informing her that she would soon receive the divorce paperwork, and that all correspondence between us should go through my attorney, but I barred her from all communication avenues. She blasted my inbox once more after receiving the paperwork. She gradually transformed her apologies into pleads, asking for one final meeting before finalizing the paperwork. She even made a threat to not sign unless we had at least one meeting. My attorney advised me to give it some thought if just one meeting could speed up the procedure. I committed to meeting in a public area. She arrived with a dejected expression and swollen eyes. She said, "I know I ruined everything." To start the discussion, "I am ashamed of who I am. Since I'm a bad person, I'm not deserving of forgiveness. I've quit my work and stopped seeing that man, but I'm not sure if that would help." I stated that it is not really important to me. She continued to talk about the same things while I sat calmly, emphasizing how sorry she was for everything. She prodded me for an answer, and I only had one question for her. "Why?" She sobbed once more, finding it difficult to speak. I advised her to tell it how it is, not to play games. She claimed that the boss was charming and exuded an air that drew everyone in the company. He expressed interest in me, but women were swooning over him. I had a sense of victory. He made overtures towards me, calling me the most handsome person in the office, and he was unable to take his eyes off of me. I gave in to it. Being a powerful guy, frequently assigned me submissive duties that were graded A+, which made me nervous yet enjoyable. When I proposed BDSM to her in the early years of our marriage, she turned me down, and I respected her choice. I questioned why she was never into BDSM. What had transpired since then? She said that because John could have chosen any person in the office, it was exciting and new. He was tempted by the young woman, but he went with me, an older woman. I felt unique, competitive, and I went above and beyond to get his approval. She concluded by stating, "I know all this is disgusting, but you wanted to know the truth, and this is the truth." While it's possible that she was somewhat duped into doing this by her boss, the more sinister reality is that she actually kind of enjoyed it. She cursed herself as she sobbed uncontrollably. I won't deny that for a while I felt sorry for her, but I didn't let it affect me. She held my hand as I got up to go and asked if there was any hope that we could reconcile. I turned and walked away. 2 days later, she gave my lawyer the divorce papers signed along with the house key and a very moving farewell email. I cried like a baby reading that email. She did that to me. She was the woman I had loved for a very long time. It hurts to think of a world without her, but that's the path I have chosen for us. The divorce is still being processed. I'm not sure if I could ever let go of her since I still love her, but the way she has treated me, I doubt I could ever let go of her. I appreciate your steadfast support. If anything develops, I'll update the topic. How do you interpret this? Tell me in the comments section below, please. Thank you for coming today. In order to make sure your next chef stays faithful, subscribe to our channel. The next story is nothing compared to what's coming, so stay tuned. But I strongly warn avoiding listening to the next story if you're younger than 18.